Reservation for minorities, I mean job reservation for minorities, has become the hot topic of discussion in India at present. This is subsequent to an observation of Supreme Court of India that religious minority status cannot become a yardstick or a justification for getting included in the list of communities eligible for job reservation. The Supreme Court made the observation during the hearing of a plea filed by Bengal government. The Bengal government filed a plea in Supreme Court against the verdict of Calcutta High Court that struck down a government order that included 77 new castes in the list of OBCs. And almost all of the 77 castes were from Muslim groups. So that is the context of the present discussion. The observation of Supreme Court is actually not just a blow in the face of Bengal government. It's a blow for almost all political parties in India. Why I said this? There have been many judgments against including minority groups in the list of OBCs just because of their minority status. Already there have been many verdicts in the past, but various governments in different states in India and different political parties often found loopholes, or often they found a way to circumvent the observation of courts. Now, the question at present is, will the judgment in this case permanently plug all loopholes, and will this convince political parties in India against using reservation as a tool for appeasement? This is the major issue in the case. I think this is a case that merits impartial discussions. So let's get to the heart of the issue. Welcome to Insights. This is Hari Kumar. Let's start by analyzing the history of reservations in India. Reservations were introduced in 1950. Then when reservations were introduced, it was just meant for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. And there is a logic in the step or the move of the then government, because scheduled castes and scheduled tribes had a history of oppression, and they have been sidelined. They are at the periphery of the society. So that was justified. And even experts like Baba Saheb Ambedkar and others, they initially envisaged reservation just for 10 years. You need to remember this. Then, they didn't want reservation to be for eternity. That was a temporary step. They wanted the government to initiate other steps also to raise those communities lying in the periphery of society and bring them to mainstream. Reservation was only one of the tools. The government had to initiate other actions also. The government should take visionary steps. Okay, that reservation was extended to, I think, 15 more years later. And that is continuing now. Even if we may justify reservations for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes because they were really discriminated against, at least in many parts of India. At least some parts, Now, afterwards, many other forms of reservations were also included. There was now the concept of OBC reservation was introduced. Then I think it was in 1970s, with the 77th Amendment of Constitution, reservations in promotions were introduced. So, as time progressed, what the visionary leaders who drafted Constitution, they intended reservation was for a few years. Now more and more communities were included. Now, more and more categories of reservations came into existence. In more and more areas, reservations were introduced. The result is that every powerful community became an OBC community. For example, Yadavas in Uttar Pradesh, they are the most powerful community in Uttar Pradesh. Historically, Lord Krishna was born in Yadava community. Even in Puranas, which are thousands of years old, you have mentions of Yadavas as kings. Lord Krishna was the king. His father was a king. So they belong to the ruling class. Even now, Yadava community is the single most powerful community in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. Numerically, and even you take land holdings, you can't beat Yadavas. You come to Tamil Nadu, then you find that who are the OBCs? The OBCs are Tevar community in southern Tamil Nadu, big landholding community. In central Tamil Nadu, you find Kongu Vellalas. They are all getting reservation. Now I'm not going into the different aspects of reservation. Okay, if you find even some pretext for justifying the inclusion of Hindu caste, I don't know what is the justification in giving reservation for Muslims. Muslims have been the ruling class in India for at least the last 1,000 years. Right from the days of Delhi Sultanate till the fall of Mughal Empire, Muslims used to rule India. They occupied all important positions of power. They were generals, they were lords and barons, they were earls, lords, barons. They were occupied all the top positions in revenue. Now, how could such a community become a depressed group? I am sure that they got included into the list of communities enjoying reservation just because of their political power, just because as an organized community they wield enormous power in elections. This is why governments are afraid to remove them from the group. So that was how they came into the list of OBCs. And at that time, the majority Hindus were discriminated against. There was many taxes like jizya. And for following your religious practice, you have to pay tax. That is, you were discriminated against. And now the same communities are, they are branded as a ruling class. How is not this a negation of the reality? Is not this a fabricated story? Is not this a violation of natural justice? Why nobody speaks against such atrocities? I'm actually surprised, intrigued. So it is at least courts have come to the rescue of truth. Actually, the verdict of Calcutta High Court is relevant and it is right. Bengal was ruled from the beginning of 12th century. Bengal was started and came under Muslim rule. During the Sultanate period, Bhaktiar Khalji became the ruler. And till the 1757 War of Independence, which the British name as Sepoy riots. So during that time, Sirajud-Dawla, a Muslim, was the Sultan, was ruling Bengal. So Muslims were the ruling class of Bengal. And in that Bengal, different Muslim communities have been included in the list of OBCs. Is not a slap across the face. I cannot understand why the Bengal government did it. The only reason which I find is that this is just appeasement politics. Mamata Banerjee wanted to appease. So she included those communities as backward communities. Nowadays I find that there are people among minority groups, especially Muslims and among some Christians also. They claim that there are backward class or backward caste among Christians and Muslims. Islam often attracted people towards their community. They did religious conversions promising that Muslims are an egalitarian group. Muslims are a homogeneous group. There is no caste among Muslims. So they attracted Hindus saying that this is the way to overcome your limitations. You will lose the stigma if you became a Muslim. That was why many people joined Islam. And now they say that there are backward groups in Islam. There is backward caste in Islam. There are groups in Islam which were discriminated against. Then did you entice people to your religion, making false promises? You said that there were no caste, there were no religion, no discrimination, and now you say your religion has got caste, your religion has got discrimination. Let me ask leaders, ulama among Muslims, are there castes among Muslims? Was there discrimination practiced against Muslim groups by other groups? Then how could you say that your religion is different from Hindu religion? You earlier accused Hindus of discriminating their own brethren, and you say that you are also doing that. Then in what way you are different from Hindus? These are all political tactics. Whenever an argument suits you, you raise the argument. Whenever that argument doesn't suit you, you just discard it. Now, sometimes you cry of victimhood. Sometimes you indulge in bravado. Sometimes you say you were the rulers. Other times for reservation you say that you were discriminated against. There are backward groups in your community. In Kerala every Muslim gets reservation. How can this be justified? This is the community which owns the most of the wealth in Kerala. They don't agree that they were poor people in the past. There were people like Ulupi Kaka. Ulupi Kaka was the richest person around in 17th century in Kerala. He owned offices in almost 10 countries like Brussels, London, Paris, Cairo. He owned many ships. He was the biggest spices trader, perhaps in the world at that point of time. Now, there was one person named Pokumusa Haji in Thiruvananthapuram, and he was the richest merchant in Travancore. Even the Travancore kings were given loans by Pokumusa Haji. The former Diwan of Travancore, Raja Keshavadas, was actually his accountant. He recommended Raja Keshavadas, whose name was then Keshavapilla, to the royal court. And on the basis of recommendation, the king gave him job, and he eventually rose as the Diwan of Kerala. What I mean is that Muslims were a rich group, elite group, even in the past also. Now you Muslims should decide whether you deserve job reservation. Why should you get branded as backward? What is the logic in it? So what I am saying is that I hope the court will examine all those historical facts now before delivering a judgment. So this is what I think. Now my point is that political parties should stop appeasement on the basis of religion. Job reservation based on religion has no logic. It cannot be accepted. I hope the government will consider all these truths. I am not asking for discrimination. Nobody should be discriminated based on the caste or religion. But you should not misuse certain arguments. You should not indulge in hypocrisy. This is what I mean. Meet you with another topic next time. Till then, goodbye.